Music.
Mina haso nipate riziki yangu, mina haso niwatunze wadogo wangu, mina haso nijenge taifa langu, mina haso nitimize wajibu wangu maishani mwangu.
Everybody has a purpose to live for him. Kila mtu amepewa kipawa chake. Check out the rest mark for you, brother, sister.
Embrace the decency in earning and honest living.
Aibu ni kupigana vita visivyo vyako.
Utamwambia nini aliyekuumba?
Much respect to everyone making the world a better place.
Pongezi mabibi na mabwana popote kazini.
All the young and elderly people inventing solutions. Afisini jua kali na biashara haidhuru.
Almuradi hanumishi binadamu wala kumudhi Mola. Mina haso nipate riziki yangu, mina haso niwatunze wadogo wangu, mina haso nijenge taifa langu, mina haso nitimize wajibu wangu maishani mwangu, maishani mwangu.
Daktari na kondakta wa magari,
Heshimu haso,
wewe ni wakili na mimi ni waziri.
heshimu haso,
Wewe ni rais na mimi ni topasi.
heshimu haso,
Huyu msanii na wewe ni mwalimu.
heshimu haso,
Wewe Laki2 na mimi 200.
heshimu haso,
Kazi yako benki na mimi nauza mboga.
heshimu haso.
I'm going for what I believe in, putting to work the dreams I've seen. No human, no circumstance can stop the fire burning within. I have learned to respect other people's work and gifting. The fear of the Almighty God is a wise beginning. I have regard for everyone, including those who do not acknowledge my faith. Hey, whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. Seize the moment. Live today like it's the last one, because one day it will be it. Life is worth it when we discover our purpose and live it fully. That's why
Mina haso nipate riziki yangu, mina haso niwatunze wadogo wangu, mina haso nijenge taifa langu, mina haso nitimize wajibu wangu maishani mwangu. Wadogo wangu, mina haso nijenge taifa langu, mina
I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. I'd like to share my journey of the struggles and hustling of looking for a job. Yeah. When I cleared my...
Oh, sorry, you could just kindly stand so that the video gets you clearly.
Sorry, once again, my name is Linda Jakandangu. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession and a student of master's degree in counseling psychologist. I'd like to share my experience in looking for a job. When I was looking for a job, it wasn't easier for me, mostly during this pandemic period. And I would also like to say, when there's this, what I went through was basically because of these stereotypes. And people used to say that counseling psychology is not a profession because it is done by other sectors like churches, other institutions. So when I started, I looked for a job. I got a job in various organizations like CDC, ICA, but apparently when the contracts normally come to an end, I then started and opened my own, but it wasn't easy at first because most people will tend to say, most people do not have knowledge more so when it comes to counseling psychology and also when it comes to mental health issues. As we speak, I'm a mental health activist, but I still find challenges going forth with my career because most probably the stigmatization and the knowledge of mental health is not well known, more so even starting from the national government. To find a policy, mental health policy, it's not easy like you can find other policies around. Getting a mental health policy in the Kenyan government was not also easy. So basically, getting a job to employ myself to wasn't easy because when it comes to mental health policies, when it comes to getting clients. So I wrote proposals here and there, taking to various organizations. It was only last year that I got from Mercy Corps, whereby I went to Samburu to do a setup TOT on mental health, to set up psychosocial support groups of trauma within Samburu. But I will say when it comes to my current profession, it's not easy because of lack of knowledge. So people who are here running organization, employers, I'll call you employers because they're creating jobs. I would really appreciate when you find so much knowledge when it comes to mental health. Like in this scenario, I might say it's not news to us. We see schools being banned, and I appreciate the Ministry of Education of what they're doing, but I will also need to emphasize that is a docket now for health, Ministry of Health, because if I look at it, this is a mental health issue when you look at the banning of schools. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. How many of you could relate with what she was saying? Just by a show of hands. Okay, thank you. Next, we had a lady at the, yes, here she is. Please remember, just let us know your name and kindly stand so that you're on video.
Good afternoon once again. My name is Dorcas Mbeke Musyoka. I'm from Kitui County, and to be specific, from Mwingi Central Constituency, an aspiring MCA, Mwingi Central Ward. Thank you. I am a teacher by profession, and after working as a BOM teacher for quite a while, I noticed that probably that was not what I was made for, that is being in class. I moved from being to class to County FM in Kitui County, worked as a marketeer because of my economics background, and still while I was there, I didn't get the job that easy. Remember, getting employment as a teacher, it takes time. You know that? Do you know that? Yeah, because it depends on the years you've stayed unemployed for you to get that job. Imagine I have 1 year experience, yet there's another teacher with around 10 years experience, or he has stayed for 10 years without employment. So that person is always given a priority. So that one really killed my morale and decided that I'm done with class and moved. Getting the county FM employment was not also a walk in the park. I had done a lot of applications, and I was even giving up, staying at home, fetching water for my parents as they go to work and all that. But one day, after quite a while trying to applying and not getting responses, I received a call, not even an email. And then they told me that kindly come on Tuesday at 9. And then what I had was come on Wednesday at 8. Are you noting that? I think because I was so desperate. So when I went, the interview was done the previous day, right? At the reception, the receptionist was not so happy with me. Like, the interview was yesterday, so why are you here? I told her, I'm not blaming anyone. I just want to blame myself for not getting the instructions as they were given. And I do not want to say we women, but the response was not so sweet. But I decided I'm not going to leave this place without seeing the managing director of the FM. Not being rude anyway, nataka kazi. Unaona? So she told me that the MD is not around, and she is not sure that he will be coming. I said I'll wait for him. Even if he comes at 4, I'll be here. So I sat there up to around noon. One gentleman passed there. Later I came to notice that he was the accountant for the station and asked me if I had received any help. I said yes, however, this is what I want. I want to see the MD had come for an interview, and I've learned that it was yesterday and not today. So he was like, why do you want to see him? I want to explain myself, right? So, and have you seen him? I said, no, I've been told he's not around. And then, akakunja uso. And then I noticed the receptionist had lied. So after around 20 minutes, the accountant comes, tells me that Nando Wone, the MD. Then later I learned that I had seen the MD passing by, but I didn't notice that it was him. So nikaenda, akaniuliza, okay, nimesikia umekuja kufanya interview, nini, interview was yesterday, what. Nikamwambia, you know, we have the disadvantages of communication can be distorted, especially when it is done via a phone. And I said that I was given that call while I was in the market. Hakuwa na mimi akajua nilikuwa market. Si ndio? And I tend to believe that is why probably I got the timings wrongly. And then I told him that I truly wanted to do this interview because I had really prepared for it. So within 5 minutes, nikaona wakatengeneza hapo, then 6 people came and my interview was done. And one thing I always thank God for that was, while those who came yesterday to do the interview had done the interview and they were to go and wait for the results, mimi nikitoka pale, I already knew that I had a job. Sawa sawa. And then nikaambia Mungu, I'm going to serve you with this job. So every time I would get whatever little I used to get, I would give the fungu ya kumi. Sawa. And while in the radio station, remember you get to learn a lot. There's a lot of networking, there's a lot of information you get. So while doing the adverts for so many organizations and all that, I also learned of an opportunity in one of the organizations. I didn't I did education, that's what I said. I'm a teacher by profession. And the opportunity, they needed someone who could train on labor laws. And the interview, people were given around 2 months to apply for the opportunity and wait to be shortlisted. Na nika-apply na zingine mingi kwa sababu nilikuwa nakaa tu nikifanya nini? Nikitafuta kazi. Everyone wants a better job where we are getting better pay. Sini sawa sawa? So while still trying to get better opportunities, nika-apply hiyo na nikasubiri. While I was waiting for the 2 months after I applied, nikaenda nika-apply course ya paralegal. Kufanya nini? The labor laws. So when I was going for that interview, I was already in class studying in the paralegal class doing the labor laws so that I would fit. Pia, what I would encourage you is, again, positioning yourself in regard to what you want is also important. As much as getting a job is not a walk in the park, but let us always position ourselves. If this is what you want, make sure that, as we were told earlier, information is power. Keep on learning new thing every day, so that utasema ati hii nimekosa because of 1, 2, 3. Have a wide range of information so that you can fit. Thank you. Be blessed.
Thank you very much. That is a true example of being resilient. I wonder how many of us can actually go to an interview a day late and still insist on having that interview. Some of us would be afraid. Once you're told the interview was yesterday, you just rue your missed opportunities. But thank you very much for sharing with us your experiences. We were to hear from a gentleman, but because of time, we will postpone it to the afternoon session. For now, Ms. Caroline, I'd like to inform you that we have representation from Wajir County. So I've just come into contact with a gentleman from Wajir County. It's just that when we were making the introductions, he wasn't here yet. I guess it's the distance, you understand, yeah? So at least we have someone from Wajir County. Thank you very much. Karibu. So at least we know that we're trying as much as possible to ensure equal representation amongst us for the whole of the country. At this point, I'd like to invite Douglas, who has a presentation, and then we will continue with the session. Please clap for him as he comes. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Douglas Ogutu, and I am from Doe Music and Arts. And we do music performance, music production, music training. Please hook up with us any time of the day, and we'll tell you more. So we want to perform a song here that says, I believe in better days. And we all believe in better days. This song was written during the time when COVID was just striking. So some of the experiences will be maybe something that someone went through. So, yeah, someone can help us with the other mic, please. Okay, this is Grace and this is George, part of my team that we're going to be performing together. Yeah, Just a minute as we wait for the mic to be sorted. Yeah, as I always say, if you feel the song, you can smile. Even in the mask, you can also smile in the mind, all right? Okay, great. So we will just do it. I believe in better days to come. I believe in better days to come. I wanna see you smiling once again. I wanna see you go smiling once again. I believe in you. I believe in better days to come. I believe you. I believe in better days to come. I wanna see you smiling, smiling once again. I wanna see you go smiling once again. God make history. I remember parting short, we were so casual, cause we knew I'll be back soon. Longing for the brighter day, see you face to face, see the color of your skin. Told you I was gonna get you a surprise, babe. While I was booking the vehicle, I saw the news, lockdown, I believe in better days to come. Remember lockdowns? Hey! I believe in better days to come. 'Cause I wanna see you guys smiling once again. I wanna see you smile, smiling once again. God make this true. I believe in better days to come. This is my prayer. I believe in better days to come. 'Cause I wanna see you smile, smiling once again. I wanna see you go smiling once again. God make this true. Do you remember brother Marcus and lucky guy, we graduated together? He's the one I'm putting up with in the makeshift shelter at Kibera. Who was solid, just gotten his first job 11 years later. Imagine one day in the office and the company just shut down, baby. Oh, I believe in better days to come. Can I hear somebody singing? I believe in better days to come. We can add a clap. I wanna see you guys smiling once again. I wanna see you guys smiling once again. God make this true. I believe in better days to come. I believe you. I believe in good. I wanna see you go smiling once again. This is my prayer to the Lord. Smiling once again. God make I believe in better days to come. Can I hear somebody say, I believe in better days to come? 'Cause this is my prayer.
there. Smiling once again. I wanna see you, girl. Smiling once again. Heartbreak is through. I'll be living better days to come. God bless you so much.
Thank you very much. That was really, really wonderful. You didn't even need a microphone, by the way. Your voice was actually very powerful without it. So I would now like to invite Victor, who is going to continue with the program. And then after that, we'll immediately go into the panel discussion that we are meant to have. And then we will break for lunch, all right? So that's the order of events from now, henceforth. So just in case you have been wondering, it's almost lunchtime. So there is lunch, so have no fear. All right, Victor, thank you.
Thanks so much, Richard. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Richard. I know we are running out of time. And at the beginning, we had communicated that we are going to give Madam Nyirahazwe an opportunity to share the status of youth employment globally, and also what are some of the best practices that we can tap in or we can borrow as a country. In the interest of time, allow me to give her an opportunity to make that presentation. We are going to give her 15 minutes, and then immediately after that, we are going to have the first panel discussion that's going to bring, we are going to have a representative from the Ministry of Agriculture. We are going to have a representative from Fairtrade Africa. We are going to have young people who are farmers also sit on that panel discussion. And I know time is not on our side, so I'll encourage try your best to summarize your presentation, and also even the other speakers who come after her, please try your best to summarize your points. Thanks so much.
So good afternoon, everyone. Okay. All right. All right, good afternoon, everyone, once again. I'm really glad to be here, but as I begin, let me thank the organizers of this wonderful meeting for inviting one. It's really a pleasure to be here with you all. So before I start my presentation, and as we sort out the PowerPoint, please allow me to introduce the organization I work for, One Campaign. It's an advocacy and campaign organization of millions of supporters around the world who are taking action to end extreme poverty and preventable diseases around the world. We believe that the fight against poverty is about justice and equality. And what we do is we lobby political leaders, we run grassroots campaign, and we empower young people. So recently, a few years back, we took a poll with millions of supporters, especially those in Africa, and we asked them what are the interventions they think might help in the fight against poverty. And out of that poll, the young people who come from across the spectrum informed us that job creation is critical and is key for fighting poverty. In the past, we've worked on agriculture. I think Victor mentioned it earlier as one of the key sectors that can get most people out of poverty. We've worked also on health, and that's for obvious reason. You can't fight poverty if you don't have a healthy population. And we've also worked on accountability and transparency. As we work with these leaders, it's important that they become accountable to their citizens. So the millions of young people that I mentioned who gave us this idea of running a campaign on job creation, actually some of them are in this room, and I would love to recognize them. So I want the one champions, those who are working with us, to please stand up just so we can recognize them. They are really key and they are driving the work that we are doing. Please, one champions, stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you very much. So now, why Africa jobs? That's the question that we ask ourselves. And you probably know that Africa has the youngest population. We really have a young people, and we have about 153 million young people who will enter the workforce by 2030. Most citizens think their governments are not addressing job creation well enough compared to other issues. And if strategic intervention are prioritized, African economies will reap 500 billion per year benefit in GDP growth offered by the demographic dividend. So you also probably know that African leaders, when they met at the African Union in 2017, they decided to call that year the harnessing of demographic dividend, because they really realized that if we harness the potential of young people, the continent will benefit a lot from it. So the continent problem could multiply if we don't address this problem, and we see how also we can see extremist arms groups coming up all over the continent. And Africa economic growth in the past 2 decades did not create enough decent jobs, and that, I think we can all agree on that. So we have about 10 to 12 million young people who are entering the workforce every year, and only 3 million get a formal job. You see there's a big gap there that needs to be addressed. So 9 countries, including South Africa, faces youth unemployment above 35%. And here you'll be actually surprised to learn that South Africa in Africa has the most unemployment on the African continent. Urban youth are disproportionately affected by the joblessness. But the real problem is that fewer decent jobs exist across the continent. So more than 85% African workers are in the informal sector, whether in agriculture or informal manufacturing and services. And women and youth are disproportionately represented in informal employment. So the lack of social safety net and shortage of formal wages jobs in Africa means that young people must take low-pay informal jobs, meaning they have no job security, they lack employee benefits, and are less productive. This is also reflected in the high poverty incidence among youth. 2 out of every 3 working African earn below $3 a day. And you see here, I don't know how well you can see the graphics here, but we can see that so many of our young people, especially in this graph, in other in the rest of the world, you see in green workers earning above $3.2 dollars per day in the pink color, and those are moderate poor who are earning between 1.9 to 3.20 per day. And then in red, we have the extreme poor workers living below 1.90 per day. So you see that Africa, we have the most working poor. So this is something that needs to be addressed. And in the lower of this graph, you have G7 countries. So now, why are there fewer decent jobs on the continent? And we came up with three main broad problems. So the first one is the low business performance and survival rates due to low structural transformation, weak environment, regulatory environment, inadequate infrastructure, and lack of access to credit. The second one is the high share of unemployable workforce due to the skill mismatch, poor quality of education, and ineffective labor market information system. The third one is that youth are not empowered, as they are often left out of dialogue, and government and donors are not prioritizing investment in job and safety for youth enough. And that's why we're having this meeting today to address this. So recently we had a consultation with some partners here in Kenya who are working on job creation. And there are a few things that came out of that consultation, and that's the landscape in Kenya. But mostly I would say that these issues, these challenges are almost similar across the continent. So the landscape in Kenya is we have a young labor force, over 80% employed in informal sector. The youth of the age group 20 to 24 and 25 to 29 record the highest proportion of the unemployed at 16.3% and 9.1% respectively. The pandemic has also had an effect which saw the increase of unemployment rates up to 6.6 in Q1 of 2020 from 5.2 in Q1 of 2020. So what are the existing public and non-public youth employment architecture? And we have noticed that the ministerial responsibility and national and county development planning. This is the third medium-term plan, 2018 to 2022, and the county integrated development plans. We have also the public policy document. You have all heard about the Vision 2030, the economic recovery strategy for wealth and employment creation, national youth policy, policy framework for education, Kenya Youth Agribusiness Strategy, Kenya Youth Development Policy, and I think the NYC have been promoting all these policy documents so that young people can be familiar with what the government has put in place to address youth unemployment. There's also the Public Youth Employment Initiative, various policies developed under the umbrella of the Vision 2030, like the National Youth Council, the Kenya Youth Employment and Opportunity Project, the Youth Enterprises Development Fund, and so on. But apart from those governments, there are also non-state intervention. So there are INGOs that have come up with initiative. There are faith-based organizations. There are development financing institutions that have also come up with, project to address this. And I'll just mention a few: the Youth Employment and Opportunities Projects for Kenya developed by the World Bank. There's the Youth Entrepreneurship Innovation Multi-Donor Trust Fund by the African Development Bank, the Challenge Fund for Youth Employment, and the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And of course, lastly, I'll mention the ULEAD, which is a joint initiative of member state training Center for Development Cooperation and the East African Community, among numerous other initiatives. So in our consultation again, we discussed what are the key sectors with potential to create more decent jobs in Kenya. And I will go back to what Victor stated today. The agriculture sector employs about 60% of Kenya total labor force employed, yet only 10% of youth are directly participating in the sector. And at one campaign, we realized you cannot fight poverty if people are not able to feed themselves, if you don't have enough for you. And we also realized that most of the young people are not interested in the agriculture sector. Yet it's a big mistake, because agriculture is a sector that has potential to give you so many jobs, and you don't have to be at the farmer's level. There's a whole value chain in agriculture, and you can all get into work in the different phases. And we ran a campaign a few years back to say that do agric, it pays. And I heard you mentioning that there will be some young people who are in agriculture who will be attending this, and they will give you testimony of how agriculture has really transformed their lives. So the other sector is the ICT sector, which holds immense employment opportunities for Kenyan youth. The government, the private sector investment in ICT have set the stage for Kenya to become a hub for innovation, meetups, incubator, startup event, and accelerator, with a view of equipping youth with ICT skills needed in the labor force. And then we also talked about the creative economy. We've just heard a wonderful performance by this group. And these are people who are in the art, entertainment, and media. And it's a sector that needs to be really empowered and be given the recognition that it deserves. And it will definitely create a lot of opportunities. And then the informal sector services, including micro, small, and medium enterprises, could potentially have a major impact on wealth and job creation. This blue-collar economy employs 3 out of every 4 workers and is the mainstay of job creation in Kenya. So what are the challenges to decent jobs creation in Kenya? From this graph, you see from both spectrum, we have a low quantity of job and the low quality of jobs. And the main challenges we see there is that it creates poverty, it inhibits education, health, and productivity. We have a lack of access to capital, the business environment is not there, governance and policy, skills and data, capacity and skills matching and information gap, and then the insecurity, especially in marginalized counties. So what are the solutions that young people and you, because some of you were in that consultation, I've seen some of you here in this room. So the solution that you gave to address governance concern: better coordination of national youth forum, strengthen labor laws, accountability, impact assessment of program. You also stated that you would love to see mobilization of access to finance. Earlier on, the professor told us that you can actually start with even 500 Kenya shilling business. So funding is important, but you can always start with what you have. But we need also new funding, streamline credit to target job-rich sectors, public work programs. And that's why we're also working with development financing institutions so that they can inject funding for business to thrive. And then we improve the business environment. So the main challenge is that people will talk about not having a conducive environment for business in most of our countries. Okay, and then the creation of new opportunities, incentivize training, subsidize internship, expand apprenticeship system, increase access to public services. So what is the approach of one campaign because we are going to run this campaign on job creation, not only here in Kenya, but across the African continent. And the approach that we're going to use is to demand a pathway to 15 million jobs every year by 2025. It's a big challenge, but we know that the young people with your energy, this is going to be possible. So what is the campaign objective? I just mentioned identify and advocate for the removal of constraint to job creation in 5 countries. So we are starting this campaign with 5 pilot countries, and those are South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, and DRC. And we want to advocate for transformative development financing institution investment to Africa. So when an investor, whether from outside of the country or those inside the country, wants to come and do business here, we want to ensure that part of the funding they are giving to the government also goes to a creation of jobs on here. And there's a fraction of that amount that is given to youth empowerment. And then, of course, we empower African voices on green recovery investment strategy. So what are going to be the short-term outcomes? We want citizens more aware and vocal about the issues. So we really want young people to demand this. You know, they always say that power is not given, it's taken. So whatever young people are going to demand, the government is going to give it to you if you feel like it's really important for you and your lives depend on it. And then we want to secure commitment from national government and development financing institution. The intermediate outcome, we want to remove of relevant constraint to job creation, private sector growth in targeted countries. We want 80 billion development financing funds mobilized to support key sectors. We also want the citizen at the core of transparency and accountability for better jobs. In the long term, we want economic growth to increase. We want more and better jobs available for all, including women and youth. We want share of informal job reduces, environment becomes safer, and all of that will get us to the 15 million jobs, decent jobs, I must say, created every year by 2025. And in doing so, we want to ensure that we align our national agenda with continental initiative so that we get to the success that we want. We know that there's an increase in intra-trade with Africa that will drive job creation. We all know that we recently have the African Continental Free Trade Area that has been launched. So this provides an amazing opportunity for young people who want to do business. So you are not only going to do business in Kenya, but you can do business across the continent. So you need to get informed, you need to learn more about this so that you can take advantage of this amazing opportunity. And it will be key to amplify and mobilize investment for critical regional connection infrastructure, because that's also important to move one thing, one good from one country to another. So I thank you very much for your attention, and this is to give you an idea of what you say to us that we've taken into consideration, and some of the ideas that we are going to put to implement together. And thank you very much once again, and I welcome to join organization like One Campaign so that you can learn more on how to get to know the policies that are in place in your different countries, in your counties, and you can run with those. So once again, I'm really happy to be here, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Doreen Ninahazwe, for that elaborate presentation and also for shaping the perspective of how, once we align what we are doing nationally, can bring about acceleration continentally, because it is the best way for us to move forward, not only as a nation, but regionally as Africa. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we hope that you will interact with the One Team after the sessions, during the exhibitions, and even when we have breaks, so that we keep learning from one another. We'd like to move to the second part of today's program, and she mentioned about youth and agriculture, and the second session is going to be about agriculture and youth who are already in agriculture. So before we continue, please just stand in case your neighbor is dozing off, just to wake them up, tell them we are continuing with the program. Maybe the shuffling noises will make them wake up. Right, I'd like us to play a very small game, and it's short, but this is not physical, this is more of an intellectual game, all right? If you believe your IQ is up there, I hope you'll do well in this game. So this game is all about going camping. Sawa? How many of you have gone camping before? Okay, I know this is Africa. You can't imagine going to sleep in the wilderness under a tent with no security, but it's good to get out of your comfort zone once in a while. So if you're going camping, where would you like to go camping? Give me one destination, just one name. Where? Masai Mara. All right, so if we're going to Masai Mara, turn to your neighbor, tell them the first thing we carry when we're going to Masai Mara is a mat. All right? The first thing we're carrying is a mat. Now, the second thing we're going to carry, because we're going to Masai Mara, the first thing is a mat. The second thing we're going to carry is an apron. Is an apron. Okay, I know some of you say apron, but for the cultured ones, it's an apron. All right? For those, it depends whether your school was a debate center for presidential debates or a polling station. Okay? So for you who went to schools that are presidential debate centers, it's an apron. So the first thing we've carried is a mat, the second thing is an apron. Now, tell me someone, what is the third thing we should carry if we're going to Masai Mara? No. Cooking pot, no. Okay guys, the first thing, we're going to Masai Mara. The first thing was a mat. The second thing was an apron. What is the third thing? A market. Rackets? No. Let me give you guys a clue. The third thing we're going to carry is apples. Masai Mara. The first thing, mat. Second thing, apron. Third thing, apples. Fourth thing, socks. Socks, yes, someone has gotten it. The fourth thing we're carrying are socks. So Masai Mara, mat, apron, apples, socks. What is the fifth thing? Meat. Not yet. What is the fifth thing? Another apron? Yes, we can carry another apron. And the last thing? iPad. Yes, so we've carried mats, aprons, apples, socks, other aprons, iPads. Now, we're going to the Mara now. What is the first thing we carry going to the Mara? Meat. Now we can carry the meat. What is the second thing now? Apples or aprons again. What else? How many of you have no idea what's going on, by the way? For those of you who've gotten it, please, you can explain it to everyone at lunchtime, okay? All right, please have your seats. I see we're carrying Ribena, and lastly, we're going to the Mara. We have meat, aprons, Ribena, and more aprons. All right, for those of you who still don't know what's going on, we are now going to question which schools you attended. So for this juncture, I'd like to invite Ms. Mundi, who's going to take us through the panel discussion on agribusiness and the opportunities therein. So please give her a hearty hand clap as she comes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Kila mtu ako poa? Hi. I know now which schools you all attended. I could see some people struggling with that game, which was very enlightening. My name is Boniface. Yes. My name is Boniface, and I am 28 years old. And I am currently a pumpkin farmer. Before I became a pumpkin farmer, I was running a small business in Nairobi's Kayole Estate. And I graduated from Maseno University some years back. I'm now 28 years old, like I said. And I have tarmacked for a long time, and with no success, I moved to Nairobi, where I started a mkokoteni business. Nilikuwa nauza maji. After saving for a year, I started a mandazi business with my girlfriend, Lucy. And Lucy got pregnant, and we were unable to raise money to have our baby delivered in hospital, so we delivered the baby at home in a single room in Kayole. After a few days after the baby was born, the baby developed complications, and we were forced to take her to hospital. But then also, we were not able to raise money for the hospital bill, and had to smuggle my baby and my girlfriend from the hospital at night. I later got support from my neighbors and my fellow mkokoteni friends, Mbogi. Hiyo ndio Mbogi? From the Mbogis, and we managed to clear the bill. Now, with a new baby and a struggling mandazi business and my wife, my girlfriend, who had just delivered, I had no other option than to move back to my rural home, where I asked my parents to give me a piece of land so that I could start farming to sustain my young family. Now my pumpkin business is doing very well, and I do not wish to go back to Kayole. And one of the lessons I have learned from my experience is that if you're worried about the cost of getting started, then you should see the price that you have to pay of staying exactly where you are. So Boniface sent me with this. He's actually, my name is Mombi. Boniface is in the audience, and I shared this story on his behalf with his consent. Of course, that is not his real name, but from the stories that other participants were giving, this is a true story. You probably have even seen it in the articles about that young man who had to smuggle his baby out of the hospital and is now a successful pumpkin farmer. And I know there are many of us who are seated here in the audience, young people who have had to face the same situation. And what the previous speaker has talked about, one of the sectors that has the biggest opportunity for employment in Kenya is the agricultural sector. And we all know that the agricultural sector remains the backbone of the Kenyan economy and provides employment opportunities for up to 75%. Our previous speaker said 60%. We'll check that. And it contributes to close to 25% of the GDP. So the growth of this sector has a greater impact on the population, and its performance has been closely reflected in some of the key indicators that we look when we're looking at the success for the agricultural sector. One of them is employment, and the other one is the GDP. And so today, my fellow youth, I'm so happy because I am so associated since I am a young person. We are going to look at the potential of this sector and what needs to be done to create decent jobs for us in this sector. The previous speaker has said that we don't have to look at it as just farming, but then we have to look at the opportunities that exist in the value chain. And we have a lot of people who are on standby to give us the experiences and tell us what has worked. We're going to look at why we see young people moving away from rural areas and from agricultural activities. We're going to look at the perceptions that we have on agriculture. We're going to look at the opportunities that we have. We're going to look at the emerging trends across the globe. We're going to look at the best practices and priorities for the young people in the agriculture value chain as well as in policy making. So allow me now to invite to the stage our panelists. This is going to be a very interesting panel conversation. We have Mr. Benson Nyariaro. Is he here? Yes. Karibu sana. He is the head of Youth in Agriculture Unit, Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives. We have Mr. Lone Felix, Program Manager, IPIT, Enable Youth Kenya. Then we have Ms. Vicky Aridi, Girl Power. Yes, Youth Coordinator at Fair Trade Africa. Then we have Mr. Bronson Erango. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrongly. Yes, he's going to give us honey. He is an innovator, and we cannot wait to hear what you have to tell us today. And then we have Lucy Wangari. Is she in the audience? Yes, Lucy is a farmer, onion farmer, and top 35, under 35 awardee of the Youth Agenda. Congratulations. Yeah, so we were also supposed to have on the panel Mr. Noah Nasiali, but unfortunately he's not able to make it. I hope he's following online. And my name is not Boniface, my name is Mombi Mugo. I work at HIVOS East Africa, and I'll be moderating this session. Allow me to have a seat now. Victor, we will need microphones for the panelists. Yes. Benson. Bronson, yes, we can start with you. We can start by telling us what we have on the table, what it is about. I think then we can start the conversation there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, also, it's good to recognize the presence of my also co-founder. Can just stand up, Andrew Soita. I'd like to do that because this is not me only. It's with him also. That's why I'm here. Andrew, you can just stand and wave so that people can see you. Yeah, that's Andrew Soita. Yeah, and also one of our key potential farmer from Tanzania, Patrick. Just stand up and wave. Thank you. So as pronounced, the second name, just use it, Nogwa. It's always a hassle to try and pronounce it right. So I'm Bronson Nogwa. I work with Africa Honey Consortium. And what you see, it's what we do best. I'm saying we do because I have a co-founder there. It's not only me, as stated. Why honey and why bees? First, bees are a factor of food production. When we talk about food security, we cannot achieve without pollination. 87% of food you put today on the table is attributed to those small, tiny animals into that. Second point is because of also climate change, and you talk about environmental issues. 90% of trees that you grow is attributed to pollination of bees. That's how critical they are, and people haven't realized that, and that's why we're doing that. And why honey is because also it's the second most alterated component in the world after petroleum. There's high alteration. The market demand is high that people tend to start forging, alterating the honey before it goes to market. So basically we came in to fill that gap whereby we we monitor displacement of honey within from the hive to the consumer. Thereby we're ensuring food safety, food security through pollination, environmental conservation through planting of trees, and last but not least, nutritional value for all communities and also youth employment, because people we're working with are farmers. 50% are women, 50% of those total farmers, they have to be youths. And this can be verified through the database system which you work with. So we are more of an apex body in Africa, focusing that, but I'm at home because this is where it's headquarters as Africa Honey Consortium. And we do various components or products from honey. The dark honey you can see here, if I have to mention, is a combination, this moringa honey is coming from purely moringa tree. This is acacia honey, that's why it's light brown, it's not dark. Then we had mint, which is green. Okay, sorry, I've been told people want to see my number plate, so I hope you can see it. Yeah, so apart from that, we do other products, which is chocolate from honey, made of honey. Then we also have creamed honey, which is white in color. Then we also have cosmetics for women, whereby honey is good for your skin. So it's combined with wax and some mango puree to make it body lotion. We have lip balms. We have, I think this lipstick, something of the sort, or lip balm. I'm not familiar with that. It's not my second, though I'm familiar with what you use. And also there's the body lotion. And all this you see is what you can do as a youth in this space. Personally, I'm a youth, and we're really doing great because for us, our journey has been long. And to see us here today doing such products, not only for local production, local market, it's for export also, is quite an honor. And if you look at what you're doing most, you can see it's glass. Why glass is because you're tending to move to conservation of environment and recycling, avoiding plastics into the cascading, to the climate issues which you're having currently. So that's what we do in brief. I'll say that.
Thank you. Clap to Bronson. I actually never thought we could get lipstick or lip balm from honey. I must try that out. Before you put on your mask, and I'm now going to give an opportunity to all the panelists to just open up the conversation on employment opportunities for the youth in agriculture. What is your, just for us to share very preliminary thoughts on what we think about youth and employment in agriculture, and maybe we could also try to demystify the notion that the youth do not want to be associated with agriculture, and the attitudes that agriculture is a low-paying job, it's a dirty job, the techniques are old, they're traditional. What are your very initial thoughts on what you think about youth employment in agriculture?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I'd like to also address that through, because the reason why there's low interest into agriculture by youths, this is something we need to check as a government, is because the government, in terms of even, let's start with policy formulations, they formulate policies, we're not there. So that's the first thing we can't take. You can't take which you're not part of. Secondly, again, you've made agriculture fashionable. As a bee or as a farmer, I don't stay in the office. I run it as a business. Once you start changing the notion of doing agriculture as a fashion thing to a business thing, I think that's where we'll have interest. When I talk business, it's like, let's have the revenue flow. People are making money from it, not fashion that agriculture is good to go there. And that's the key thing we need to check at. Changing that notion whereby it's not a fashion thing, it's a business. And Lucy can tell you she can attribute to this. We don't have office as farmers. We work on the field. And I'm always proud if I'm dirty, because at the end of the day, next week I'm going to Baringo, it's hot, it's dirty. I was with him back in Baringo, and I was there, they're like, are you from Arab countries? Because my beers were brown. And I was happy because when you're coming back, there was some good payment I got from that. And that's it. No matter how it's demonstrated that it is, once you change it from being a fashion to being a business, I think that's when there will be uptake. And secondly, once you start involving youths on the table in terms of policy, when I make policies like also finance, we have many financial institutions channeling the funds, but it's unfortunate to say there's a high bureaucracy among the institution, we don't get the money. And third but not least is also banking system. We have to develop a youth finance tailored system. I'm a youth, and I keep repeating this and I repeat today here. I'll use 35 because that's the maximum age of a youth. You expect a 35 years old to go to a bank to get a loan, and he or she they are being asked to have an experience of 50 years. They have started a startup which is 3 years. You're asking for financial statement of 7 years. How do you run that? And that's what is actually really killing the agriculture and youth space, like in terms of coming to do what you're supposed to do really. So we have to have financial inclusion, develop financial instrument which is tailored for youth specifically. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky, your very initial thoughts on this conversation.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Youth Agenda, for organizing this integral conference. So my name is Vicky Aridi, and I'm the Youth Coordinator at Fair Trade Africa. Now, thinking about youth employment in agriculture, before I even dive into that, I'd just like us to reflect a bit. All of us sitting here, how many of you would decide to just venture into agriculture willingly? By a show of hands. How many people think that there needs to be a more enabling environment for youth to get involved in agriculture? Another show of hands. The last question, how many people think that it is possible for agriculture to be a decent and sustainable venture? There you have it. Looking at the room here, you can see there are people who are interested, there are people who think it is possible. So that already shows you that there are young people who are willing to enter the field. But where the gap comes in is the enabling environment. That is where we have to start from. So thinking about some of the root causes that my colleague here has pointed to, like finance, but now also thinking on matters to do with the assets. Most young people can't even access land or even be able to own land. So if I don't have the land, how can I start venturing? Also thinking about...
We will get into the deeper conversation.
Yeah.
I think from you, your big thing on youth employment in the agriculture sector is an enabling environment.
Yes.
And I get from Bronson is policies and youth participation in policy making, as well as us looking at agriculture not as a fashion, but as a business making venture. Felix. Victoria, Mike. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, to start with, I've always wanted to know the problems that people who have beards...
Do you want to remove your mask so that we can... Okay. Yeah, I'll make sure the mics are sanitized.
Thanks. So, to start with, I've always wanted to know the problem that people who have beards face when they are wearing masks. So I've just realized that one is you can't speak. My name is Felix. I work for Agricultural Finance Corporation, which is a government agency whose statutory mandate is to provide finance to agriculture. My very initial thoughts really marry what Bronson has said. And I think, Benson, you'll remember this. We were in a certain forum about a year ago in Nakuru, and I said, really, nobody should be struggling to make agriculture sexy. It doesn't need to be. It's really just about the money. All of us want money, right? And as long as we can crunch the numbers and demonstrate a case, young people will participate. So that is one thing. And then the second thing, and I think which will be the basis of a lot of the perspectives I'll share, is the issue of access to finance, which is a very big impediment. You've heard a thread from what Bronson is saying, the bureaucracies within our banking system, and even ourselves as a government-mandated development finance institutions. But what actually you'd also be surprised is there is money in the market, and there are no young people to take it. So that is also the other thing, which is a very interesting perspective, which I hope we'll deliberate on later on. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And it's true, there are many opportunities that exist, but young people don't know about them. So, you know, issues of access to information and how we package and for information on opportunities in agriculture. Mr. Benson, now to you. Your very initial thoughts on this conversation before we delve into the real issues.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Benson Nyeriero. Let me also recognize the presence of my colleague, Charles Lusweti. We work within the same unit, Youth in Agriculture unit. For us in the Youth in Agriculture unit, this year our efforts are targeted towards the 4K clubs, reviving them. And why are we talking of 4K clubs? Attitude change, because there's a document we developed some time back. It's called the Kenya Youth in Agribusiness Strategy. And one of the greatest challenges that came out was the issue of attitude change. Why is it that most of our youth are not engaging in agriculture, more specifically agribusiness? So we realized that attitude was the topmost of the list of almost 13 challenges that were brought out by the youth. So this year, and the years to come, we are targeting reviving and rebranding of the 4K clubs. You must have seen us on TV when we are relaunching and reviving the 4K clubs, because we are talking of catching them young, so that as they grow, as the young people grow, we will already have introduced them to agriculture, we will have socialized them without necessarily engaging in child labor. Child labor, my dear sister from Kirinyaga, child labor issues, of course, that's a real concern. So we socialize them at that tender age so that they're able to appreciate that there is agriculture and they can make money out of it. So those are my initial thoughts, and that's our target for this year and the coming years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our dear onion expert. Sanitizer? Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you don't say it well, we will not produce onions for you. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, yesterday I sowed seeds that you're going to consume in April. So good afternoon. Yes, my name is Lucy, but in the agribusiness space, I am known as the onion doctor. I'm 27 years old, and I started onions at 23. So yes, I have a lot of experience in that field. As Bronson said, I don't have an office, I have a farm. And I want to mention a few issues that have been mentioned here about enabling environment. As a person who has struggled so much with that, I may not do a billion things, but I think I am one of the enablers. I'm saying that because if you want to join agriculture and you want to see a farm where things happen, or you want to see irrigation in action, onions in action. I'm liking the rhymes. And if you want to see any of those things, I would largely invite you to come over to my farm. And I say I have a farm right now, talking about the finances or the money that is in agriculture. I began as a farm manager, lost a job in the middle of COVID, got into consultancy because I'm a trained farmer, and now I have my own farm. Not through grants, not through anything, but through agriculture, and not just agriculture, through the most basic commodity, an onion. So now I'm asking you guys, if you want to get into the space, I think I'm an enabler. Just go to Twitter, look Onion Doctor, DM. I think that's the easiest thing we can do right now. Come to my farm. I'll give you an overall gummies if you just want to have the experience, because we're talking about giving skills. I may not give you the money, but I may give you the opportunity to see, to feel, to even practice, to have the hot sun, or even you can come with me and I have my onions in the handbag when I'm going to scout for markets, because I believe the conversation of agriculture about how much you don't have, I really don't understand why we don't speak about how much we have, because honestly, it's through onions that I can be able to go to Kempinski with a sample. Come and see here, what would I have gone to Kempinski to do? But then, since I have a product that I need to take to the market, I think I am one of the youth, and I represent a million of others who have the guts, or in the language that we like to say, who have a pair to do things. So I'm inviting you, come over to my farm, and I am one of the enablers. I'm going to show you what I know. Even as I look for opportunities and learn software skills, I believe there's something I can present on the table as a youth in agriculture.
Where is the farm?
Birika. Birika is between Kiserian and Isinya, somewhere in between. So you can DM me, I give you pins or whatever that we need to do so that we can have the conversation at a different level. I'm an enabler and I believe I am.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So as we look into this, and I want to mention what Felix has said, and I think Bronson has also brought this out. And I think also Mr. Benson in his conversation on the strategy and how one of the biggest things that you identified is the changing of the attitudes. And Felix has said that we do not need to make agriculture look sexy, for lack of a better word, for young people to engage in the opportunities that exist in the agricultural value chain. But one of the things that has been going round, or we could call it an emerging trend, and I know a lot of people in this room have interacted with it, is the issue of climate smart agriculture. That has now become a very elitist conversation. And, you know, when you hear these big names and these experts in this sector talking about climate change, climate smart agriculture, as young people, sometimes we shy away from that conversation because it has become ikona wenyewe. So it's a conversation that needs to be unpacked, to be demystified so that we understand what it is about. And really, I think climate smart agriculture is just disassociating farming or agriculture from the traditional farming techniques that used to be there, and now introducing all these types of mechanization that exist to encourage young people to get into commercial farming. So I'll take this to Mr. Benson from the ministry to just unpack for us in a way that we understand what climate smart agriculture is. And while you are at it, you can also tell us how we can engage in these conversations and what are the opportunities that exist therein. And then I would like Lucy to listen very carefully to what Mr. Benson says about climate smart agriculture and react to that conversation, and also tell us how you get that as a young person. And then we will ask other young people to respond.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not a specialist in environment, but climate smart agriculture is simply a set of farming practices that are designed to increase productivity, improve and increase resilience, and at the same time providing mitigation measures for the various challenges that we face in the face of climate change. So whatever activity you're carrying out, if you ask yourself, is it increasing productivity? Yes. Is it increasing your resilience or the resilience of that land that you're using to produce? Is it providing mitigation measures for whatever challenges that you are facing in the process of engaging in that enterprise? So put simply, that is what climate smart agriculture is. We as a ministry have several programs, and there's one specifically called Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Program, designed and being funded by the World Bank. Is one of the many programs that the ministry has in place. We have almost 22 programs and projects running. This one is a World Bank funded program, and its objective actually is to, let me just pick it from the document. Kenya Smart Agriculture, sorry. The objective is actually to increase agricultural productivity and build resilience to climate change risks in the targeted smallholder farming and pastoral communities in Kenya, and also in the event of crisis or emergency to provide immediate and effective response. I know most of us have come across this program. It operates, I think, in, is it 24 counties? There's Climate Smart Agriculture, and then there's also NARIG, where the program which is called NARIG, National Agricultural and Rural Inclusive Growth Project, operates. Kenya Climate Smart does not operate because of the overlaps. Both of them are World Bank funded programs, and they're specifically targeting those mitigation measures, improving productivity, and also ensuring that you provided the necessary mitigation measures to address the challenges as they come up due to climate change. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what climate smart agriculture is. There are several examples. There's zero tillage agriculture. I might wish to engage in zero tillage. There are details as to what zero tillage.
Excuse me, are we struggling to hear? Yes? Okay, yes. I think it's because of the mask.
Sorry about that. We also have zero tillage agriculture is one of the climate smart practices that we have in place. So there are several other practices that are considered climate smart agriculture. If you go to our website, the ministry's website, you'll be able to come across that program amongst many other programs. But even as we're talking about Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture, there are several other programs. I mentioned about 22 of them. All of them have affirmative action targeting the youth. Of course, there's no program that you're going to write and expect funding or support if you're not targeting youth and women. Affirmative action targeting those two very important sectors of the population. So all those programs, the 22 of them, have affirmative action targeting youth, and all of them are basically climate smart programs. We have the Enable Youth Kenya program, which we are working closely with the Agricultural Finance Corporation. The Enable Youth Kenya program is a 3.6 billion program funded by ADB, and AFC is managing almost 2/3 of those resources in terms of the monies that are going out in terms of loans to the youth. We talked of financing the youth. There are two sets of loans. One is at 0%, targeting the standard youth whom we are calling incubatees, who are supposed to go into the incubation centers. The other one is at 5%, targeting youth who are already engaged in some form of agribusiness. All they need is a small push through the incubation centers. But the Enable program is modeled on an incubation model where the youth are recruited by an independent farm, and this farm then recruits the youth on our behalf. And as we're talking now, there's a call for application which is ongoing from now up to 26th of November, I believe. So if you believe you fit the bill, kindly apply. You'll be able to access those resources once you are taken through the incubation centers. The loans are managed by AFC. So definitely AFC is going to do its background check to ensure that whoever is accessing the loans meets the minimum requirements. And as the youth go through the incubation centers, we're also talking of the youth being de-risked, thereby minimizing the possibility of defaulting with the loans. So these are loans, 0% and 5%. I believe there's not a financial institution in Kenya which is giving loans at those rates. And those loans we negotiated with the AFC, and there are no hidden charges as opposed to other banks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I hope that helps us think about something. Before I come to you, Bronson, in terms of honey and beekeeping, climate smart agriculture in that portfolio, what does it look like?
Okay, at beekeeping, I hope I'm audible enough.
No.
What about now?
Can you hear him?
Okay, thank you. So in terms of beekeeping, and this is the most critical thing also we looked at, I understand we need asset land to do agriculture, but in beekeeping, that's what, as Africa Apiculture Consortium, that's one thing we've worked on in cutting out. We're even working with refugees in Kakuma camp, northern part of Turkana. They don't have land, and they're doing beekeeping. How is this possible? We come in, and we have many people in many organizations, even with the ministry, even the government, they have forest regions. And where also, if you look at Amboseli, they have the clash between the community and elephants. So we also advocate for beekeeping, like for elephants for bees or bees for elephants, whereby a perimeter wall of bee of apiaries is placed along the national park. This is a government land. And in return, community get in return to harvest the honey for themselves and produce, take it to the market. If you take a case in Kakuma or Baringo, we have people with huge tract of lands and they don't use it. So we partner also with other key players within the industry, especially young youths like us who would actually do afforestation. Then there's a particular kind of trees we pick for these lands, like especially in Baringo, we've done that. And we're working with a macadamia farm who does organic macadamia. So we go to the community, talk with the community land on behalf of the community. Then we capacity build them. We enable them form an organization, a cooperative groups or a self-help group at that level. Then we also help them appoint leaders and put formulation or structure in places, policies in places, which is governing this organization, which is the community group which you form. From that now, we even develop a tree nursery for them. They follow up. Then also there is a model which we agree on in engagement. Sometimes we give out first hives on half commission payment, because also we are not for profit organization. That's the key thing, is to empower farmers and also create employment. So from there, once they do the first honey harvest, we come and collect. We give them 70% of that, we retain 30% until it's completely paid. In this, keep in mind, there's a land which you already negotiated for them. We have a contract. And also when they're doing beekeeping, there's a digital system we develop. It's called ApiTrace. Currently, we have 5,786 farmers in the country. We are still doing on registration. That's only Kitui County, by the way, which they were quite easy actually to come up and do the registration in that. So through the system.
What is the name of the app again? It's an app.
It's an application. It's a system. It's called ApiTrace. System.
ApiTrace.
Yeah, it's a traceability system actually, which we are able to trace honey from production of the beehive to the market, to the consumer. So through this now, we follow up with farmers. We do capacity building. We have bee inspectors. Even among them, we partner also with the State Department of Livestock in the ministry and also National Beekeeping, whereby we take some of them, take them for training there so that they become accredited bee inspector. But currently ourselves, we also have one of our key colleagues. We have a Machakos hub where we've introduced queen rearing, where farmers don't have to wait. There's a very huge decline of pollinators. So they don't have to wait for these pollinators to come to their hives. We go and we do colony splitting and also colony production. And also we pick these farmers, we go and train them in queen rearing, help them obtain this equipment. Then it's paid later through honey. And through that, again, we're able to acquire the land which they were leased initially. And it becomes sustainable. And also there's actually reforestation of planting of trees in this land, especially semi-arid and arid regions. So with that, again, like right now, I can say comfortably we've restored over 5,000 acres of land in Kitui because of beekeeping.
Wow, thank you so much. Lucy, as a young farmer who ventured into onion doctoring and farming,
yes.
Have you, as a young person first, and then as a young farmer secondly, what has been your experience with the conversation on climate smart agriculture? Did you feel that there was enough information out there on what it means? Did you feel like you understood what it was as a young farmer, or did you feel it was a conversation for certain quarters and not for others?
Well, I took my time to read through the documents that Benson is mentioning. I think I can narrate them for the Bible. What I found a challenge is how big of words that are used to mean simple things. And I say this a million times because he has mentioned about mitigation. I am a trained farmer, I understand what mitigation is. But at farm management level, you keep saying mitigation, I do not get mitigation. You tell me this, if I add my manure this way, the water that is evaporating to the sun is less, so I irrigate less. I will irrigate less, so I will save my money on fuel, and also at the end of the day, I will use less water. What I am trying to tell you, it's a mitigation measure, but at a language that I understand. So the problem that I really have with the documentation, and I've always had with that documentation, is the language that is used. I'm trained and I have to go read, Google, research on those words, mitigation, value chains, adaptation, and what I would say was a challenge for me until I got it right was, how do I break down that big word into something very simple I can understand? Because as he has mentioned, he's talking about the pastoral community. The reality is, the pastoral communities, traditionally, what they used to do is what we are calling climate smart agriculture right now. Because Kitambo, if you come from a rural home, you have a cow, you have a farm, you have vegetables outside there, you have, so that you know, the cow will give me manure, the manure goes to the farm gives me vegetables, I sell vegetables. That is what we are calling climate smart agriculture, regenerative agriculture, circular agriculture, but those are just big terms, and that is why it even makes me feel like, that is a conversation for up there. But in reality, if I, the implementer, do not understand it, it remains a good policy, a good program. But if me, the implementer, is not trained on what that is, I don't think we achieve climate smart agriculture in any way. Yes.
Wow, thanks. Thank you. It is always good to hear from the horse's mouth, because these policies are made for us, and if we cannot internalize them and understand what they are going to do for us, then let me ask Benson and Felix, and sorry to push you to the wall this much, but as you can hear, in terms of this conversation, there is obviously a gap. And the gap is that, yes, policies are there, and there are quite many, and we obviously appreciate the efforts that the government has put in place to have all these policies. But what are we doing to address the information gap in terms of how we package this information? Are there also training opportunities that exist? That you have established to equip young people with these skills in what we are calling climate smart agriculture? Are there initiatives that you're taking to package this information differently? Also looking at, we are making these policies, for example, the one you're holding right now, it's a booklet, and I know a lot of these young people will not read. What are we doing to make sure that this information goes out to young people in ways that they can understand and actually get the information? And then I will let you rest for 2 minutes. Yeah, Felix, you can begin.
So I sort of have two perspectives to this, and I'm a young person myself, but I read. Because there is also only so much you can do, right? Information will have to be put on a paper in one way or the other. So it could come to you, because this strategy is somewhere online. So if you have an interest, you can actually Google it. Sometimes even, there are even popular versions of these strategies where now it's not the technical wording and phrasing and all that, but they try to put it in a certain in an easily understandable manner. I think my challenge to us young people, And I'm saying this as I've sat in quite a number of policy conversations in government, right? Government will try to come to you, yes, but it's not going to cover even 50% of that distance. And that is the reality we have to live with as young people. The longer distance has to be covered by us. Those of us who seek opportunities, those of us who know that we are growing, that we want to run away from poverty, that we want to build our lives better. I have to take the initiative to seek this information out and ask clarification where I am not understanding. And those young people who take those initiatives are actually doing very well on these streets. You'd actually be very surprised. There are actually young people who knock on government doors, who know these strategies and follow up and know which opportunity is where, and know that there is a project called Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture somewhere, and they can follow through doors and all that. So this is not to absolve those of us who have an opportunity to package this information in a manner that is a little more relatable from responsibility, but it's first to throw a challenge to those of us who are young and are seeking opportunity, that we will have to cover a little longer distance. In terms of the training opportunities that are there, there are a lot of training opportunities, and I can tell you that because I scour this space so much, because my primary responsibility is to look for money at AFC. So there are training opportunities within government at the county levels, whether it is through at the agricultural training institutes, which are government agencies, project-based. So like the Ministry of Agriculture has about 20 projects, and each of them you'll always find they have a training component. There are a lot of development partners who are intervening in the space, who are running training projects. I can just mention there is a project being run by GIZ targeting young people in the space. There's a project being run by, funded rather by the European Union, which has training components. And then there is training that is available to you through online portals. There is so much information at our fingertips on our mobile phones that you would be really surprised. If you wanted to do anything agric, I can assure you there is a free online course seated somewhere where a young person can do what? Can access that information. And it's not complex. You don't need to have a degree or a diploma to understand it, but you can make a choice and say, I want to venture into onion. Let me know all the stuff I need to know about this. But overall, that is my challenge. First, to us, young people, that yes, the policy makers, you know, the guys you don't like, the guys who sit in boardrooms and hotels to make policies, they're doing an okay job, by the way. But you have to walk possibly 70-80% of the distance, and then we will push Ben and company to walk the 20 or so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Felix. You have rightly put it. The Bible says that you ask and you'll receive, seek and you'll find, you knock and the door shall be opened. And Felix has rightly put it that over 70% of the journey, you have to make it yourself. For us, we have to work on the other 30%. There are so many opportunities. There's a lot of information, and Kenya is one of the countries that has been accused of having a lot of documents, a lot of strategies in place, but very little implementation of those strategies. So if I may take the example of the Kenya Youth in Agribusiness Strategy 2018-2022, we went around and popularized it in all the 47 counties. So we did our part at that point in time. And of course, we engaged the CECs, agriculture and the other departments to ensure that the information cascades down to the counties. So for us as government, we'll do our part. Like now, we need to review this Kenya business strategy, probably to read 2022, 10 years, 2022 to 2032, so that it addresses the current challenges that we are facing as a sector. But kindly, I believe most of us here are probably from 4 and above, knowledgeable, and please, let's get that task for knowledge. Ask, go to the offices, call us, and we're always there to receive you. Gone are the days when government will be accused of you leave your coat there. Personally, me and Lusweti here, we disappear for 1 or 2 hours, 1,001 phone calls. You need to do this, kindly prepare this for the CS, kindly prepare this for the cars. So gone are those days, and my colleague here from the executive office of the president will attest to that. We are working, and we are usually in the office by 7, 6:30. I usually find Lusweti in the office. He's the first one in and the last one out. I usually leave slightly early because mimi nikaguka, lakini I have to pick a few people from somewhere. But all in all, kindly come, challenge us, ask for information, request us for this and that, and we'll readily provide that information so that you're able to move to the next level.
Thank you very much. Please let us stand up. I think I'll ask the next question where we are all standing, because we are standing between you and lunch, but you're also standing between us and this panel because you're sleeping. I could see the energy is getting a bit low, and we understand. So we'll try to just wrap it up quickly. So I wanted to talk briefly about innovation to Vicky and Benson. And what we wanted to talk about this very briefly, just overview. I'm sure we will have an opportunity to go to the exhibition, and you can find Bronson there, and you can also have conversations with the panelists, engage them over lunch. Yes. Yes. Yes, I'm going to give you time. So we are just wrapping up with the panel, and then we open it up for plenary, okay? Right. Bronson and Vicky, talk to us about innovation, because what we are currently experiencing in the country is a lot of rural-urban migration because of issues of land. And I know, Bronson, you talked about it, that beekeeping and issues of land and how that has helped that conversation. How do we as young people become innovative? And how do we innovate to create employment opportunities and also to make money? As Felix said, we are doing this for the money. How do we become more creative, more innovative? How do we stop the rural-urban migration, and then we bring food insecurity in the urban areas, high cost of living, and then we are also talking about the government to help us, etc. So about innovation, very briefly, 2 minutes, and then after Bronson we can sit down. No, I know nobody will sleep standing.
Okay, thank you. I hope I'm audible.
No, please raise your voice a bit.
What about now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the microphone. It's the microphone. Maybe you can try it.
Yeah, it was a microphone. Thank you. So in terms of innovation, trust me on this, there are many, many innovations out there. And I'm one of the culprits, and I'll say this openly without hiding anything. There are innovators there as youths. And especially some of us, we really focus in agriculture development. Personally, actually, or us as organization, we have 3 or 4 innovations. The major impediment is this. Of course, we are invited in the ministry to knock doors. But truth be told, finding these people is hard. You'll end up wasting 8. Ask my colleague, he looked for the government for 2 years until I came in, just waiting, knocking doors every day. And you end up wasting resources which you can do that. So first of all, I think we need government in that. If you knock a door, and I think there's one ministry which is unique, ICT ministry. I really love to appreciate them. They're quite fast at picking up innovations, which is coming up. As I said, there's a lot of bureaucracy before you reach to that. But all in all, I think as youths, we should view any challenges as a stepping stone. And that's how we landed to, by the way, the hand is here to be in the products. If you want to get, we're selling them. But the key thing is, as youths, if you see a challenge, I think it's high time we take that challenge as to seek solution to address them. Let's not talk about land is a challenge. Ownership is a challenge, but through our system, you register even women, we're giving women mandate and power to own land, because in our system we even have the next of kin. If you are having hives, as a lady you can determine who owns the hive. God forbid, when you part, at one point you'll have to pass through this world, and how it's owned. And all this is more of that. In terms of land, how are we coming up? We know land is a challenge, but how are we ensuring these people have land? Capacity building, it's good in terms of training and all that, but when you end there, there's no impact. And that's why we end up to the next stage in terms of innovating, because that's part of innovating. You train people, but leaving that there, they're not going to do anything. They're going to go back and sit down. Only one person out of a group of 100 will take the initiative. But some need motivation, like helping formulation of CBOs, community groups, and all that, and working them in hand, partly show them the way, and also just give them a taste slightly of how things works, and trust up. Currently, even we have people innovating from the ground there on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. We may sit down. Vicky, 2 minutes. We are really running short of time, and we still have a policy conversation to have before we open it up for plenary. 2 minutes on innovation.
All right, thank you for that question. So maybe just to give a brief of what we do at Fair Trade Africa. So we at Fair Trade Africa, we are a member-based organization, and we work with 1.18 million farmers and workers across 33 countries in the continent. And a significant proportion of that are youth. Now, you've spoken about innovation, and that's quite interesting because this year, in around May, we did an innovation competition called Recover Africa. And this competition was really focused on seeing how farmers and workers across the 55 countries in our continent can be able to bring on board their innovations. And what was interesting is that young people have fantastic innovations. There was a young innovator, for instance, from Cameroon, who was doing with drones, weather forecasting, and how she had made her drone was quite interesting because she had used some of those agricultural products. There was another one who was doing something on eAgro, which was a platform that offers farmers and workers across the continent access to these finance linkages and so on. But then when you think about innovation, you have to go back and think about some of the gaps. A lot of the times we see these fantastic calls for grant proposals for innovators, but there's a big issue that always is left unaddressed. Most of these young people or even young farmers don't have the appropriate skills to write the grants. So you have a fantastic idea, but how do you go about it? How do you ensure that you get that finance? How do you ensure that you tap into? So really that is the elephant in the room that's not being addressed. Then secondly, when you also think about innovations, a big issue is scaling up and sustainability. So the fantastic idea is there, but how do you scale up? How do you ensure that it's sustainable? So really when thinking about innovations, think, yes, there's the call, but what next? How do we ensure also we build their capacity? And then thirdly is when they get those grants, a lot of the calls don't have coaching on finance and how to manage those finances. So you're giving someone who has never managed that amount of finance, where do you go from there? So those are some of the key things that need to be kept at the back of our mind.
Thank you. And Victor and Youth Agenda, I think also one of the things we should be looking at is startups, and whether we are giving enough capacity to our young people. We are encouraging all this innovation, but do they have the right skills and the right capacity to handle the money and the pressure that comes with startups? I wanted us to have a policy conversation, but I think there is a lot of pressure from the audience to ask questions. So maybe I can open it up for plenary, and then we'll wrap up with a conversation on the policy gaps that exist. So somebody can help me to take the mic round. Yes, I see those hands. We can start from the front. Please say your name, where you come from, and to who you are addressing the question.
Thank you so much. My name is Roger Somolo from Homa Bay. Basically, I want to address this as someone coming from the village. Indeed, I come from the village. Homa Bay is a village. And I acknowledge young people are doing a lot in the village. The only thing that is lacking is visibility. I would really wish anyone in the panel to share with us how they are profiling initiative in the villages, what young people are doing in the villages, so that they can come in the limelight and their initiative will be known. Because I'm afraid all these conferences that we are seeing, that people are showcasing what they are doing, young people in the village are missing, and they have a lot that they need to show. I just want to give a scenario when it comes to agriculture and farming. While I was in primary school, in case you did a mistake, the punishment was go and farm. How are we now, are we changing the narrative so that we don't see, because me, I'm now exposed. I know agriculture is not a punishment, but there are young people who are still seeing agriculture as punishment. How are we changing this narrative? Thanks so much.
Thank you. I bet, Lucy, you should be thinking about that as a young person who is doing onion farming. How have you been able to profile and make your work visible? Yes. Yes.
Mine is a question and also an input. My name is Linda. I run an organization known as Solidarity with Youth Industries, which focuses so much on mental health. Yeah, from all the panelists, they have talked about job creation, and they have not addressed job retention. Job creation and retention are two different things. Yeah, and I really wanted to share that, to put an input that youth, if you look at the data of mental health in relation to employment, most of the youths are not employed. Not that the factor might be finances, but things have changed. There's a paradigm of shift, and most of them are not employed basically based on mental health issues, mental health conditions and psychosocial disorders. So I'd like to put an input that we really need to focus on that, because it's a selective, if you look at it, it's a selective effect, whereby unemployment leads to mental health conditions and psychosocial disorders, and psychosocial disorders also leads to unemployment. Yeah, as an individual who has suffered from mental health conditions like depression, it took me a lot of time to get employed, not that because I lack purpose, not that because sometimes I lacked finances. It was just basically because I'm a person living with mental health condition and psychosocial disorders. So I'll appreciate if we put an input in every sector.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also the government.
All right. Yes, and just to note that tomorrow we are addressing the barriers to youth employment, and one of them is mental health. Linda? We are addressing mental health tomorrow, so I hope you attend the session tomorrow, so that will be looked into, but thank you, that's a good challenge for all of us.
Thank you so much. My name is Evans. I come from Homa Bay. I think I have 3 questions, and the first one goes to innovation. You know, under innovation, there is something called intellectual property rights. And we know that 2 weeks ago, we had the Data Protection Act actually launched by the government. The act is now going to be operational. I understand that there are so many gaps within that Data Protection Act. And my question then goes, because people have very good ideas, and easily many times when those ideas, before they are even put into practice, somebody else with more muscles, economic and social muscles, have taken the idea, and you see it somewhere else working and operating, and yet it was your original idea. So then it becomes a challenge for young people. Number 2 is, I know that the Ministry of Agriculture is devolved. However, at the county levels, and I will give you a short analysis of the Lake region in terms of agricultural strategies that they have put, they are actually laying. All the 6 counties of the Lake region, I think only 3 of those 6 counties have an agricultural policy that is actually, you can say, it is at a particular stage, either awaiting approval before the county assemblies or in one of the stages, or even piloting, or even there is a technical committee. But then that is not my problem. My problem is that at the very initial stages of development of these policies, the target groups, which are actually the youths, are actually not involved. So what we have, and I would say authoritatively that sometimes I get disappointed that most of the offices that are termed youth are with the old people. The old people are the ones working there. They develop policies, they think they are intellectual enough, they come up with policies, and they place before us. And they place before us. And I think we need them to distinguish. Then the Kenya Development Youth Policy of 2019 and the National Youth Policy, it actually tries to give a definition of youthhood and try to differentiate it from the youth. I think we should strictly engage the youth. There is nothing like youthhood. If somebody is youthful and is 8 years, he should go home. There is nothing like, if somebody is 8 years, somebody is 8 years and we feel is youthful, so he can take up a particular position. What I'm saying is that the national government, especially the Ministry of Agriculture, should actually get involved, because I know, whereas the Ministry of Agriculture is devolved, but under the current 2010 constitutional architecture, we are having an intergovernmental relationship. Yes. So they can actually ensure that these policies and technical working groups actually constitute the youths. And I'm disappointed because I gave you an example of the Lake region. On the Lake region, 4 out of those 6 counties have no CEC who is 18 to 34. It's a disappointment because then you get the technical working groups are full of old people. They get ideas, very innovative ideas. They do comparative studies that disconnect actually from the people on the ground.
Thank you.
Lastly.
Yes, 1 minute.
Lastly, is I know the access to government procurement opportunities under the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act was launched by the President in 2013. Now, the problem, in fact, of agricultural groups, because I've actually ventured in agriculture. I paid my first year's school fee with agriculture, so I really know. When you come up with technical, with a group, community-based groups, working on agriculture, the problem that we have on the ground there is that the bureaucracies of AGPO are too much. Somebody wants a compliance certificate. I can go through that process. By the time you get a compliance certificate from a professional body, all the assets that you had in terms of capital is done. We need a policy reform from the National Assembly, and it is you who can actually go. It is you. There are certain things. Africa has had enough of meetings. We have had enough of meetings. We need to go and actualize. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sanitize.
Thank you very much. And I know you are speaking on behalf of a lot of people seated there and seated here. So thank you for your courage. Yes. And then, I think what he's raising is a question of intergovernmental relations. Mr. Benson, everything that we're talking about that is happening, very nice initiatives and policies at a national level. And unfortunately, we don't have somebody from the county government or from COG on the panel, but maybe you can think about that question of intergovernmental relations and how that can be addressed. There was somebody from the Office of the President who talked about AGPO as an opportunity, but apparently it is not working. We could ask her to respond to that question since she's still in the audience. Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mary Moshai. I advocate for use of sustainable irrigation systems. And we all know that for a young person to get an irrigation system set up, it's very expensive. And we want the youth to see agriculture as an agribusiness, but not make it sexy, because agriculture cannot be sexy, right? And Mr. Nelson said that we have a program called the Enable Program, giving youth loans on 5% and also 0 if you are in the idea stage. So I, as a youth in the irrigation sector, I've worked so hard and I have my financial record straight with banks, but I can't access a loan because I have CRB and I have not cleared my HELB loan. How do you address this? If I'm able to pay this loan, maybe I get a loan, set up my irrigation system, give me 4 months, I'll get good produce and get ready markets. And at that point, I'll be able to start paying my loan. How will you address these issues that I, as a youth, I can be able to get a loan and be able to start paying that loan at maybe 6 months, be given 6 months and be able to start paying my loan under a certain contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Felix, I think that's to you. You can help us think. I am a young person, niko na Fuliza, niko na Mshwari, nimelistiwa CRB, I can access loans. What do I do? Yes, and then please allow, we'll just take 2 last questions because we really have to close, but the panelists are available to be consulted over lunch. 2 last questions at the back.
Good afternoon. I have 1 question and 1 concern. First question is about agriculture. How are you considering people living with disability? And my other concern is, how many people living with disability are represented here? Because if we are talking about youth, we should consider everyone. So I would like to know, that's our concern, how many people living with disability, youths, are in this conference today?
Okay, they can lift. Do we have somebody? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, yes, that's the last question. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Otieno, and I'm holding brief for Loitoktok Community Forest Association. I'm actually very interested in the bee project that you're talking about, because it is something that is going on. How do these communities, how are they able to access some of the things that you talk about, which is about the innovative ways through which we are able to follow up the production process and until they're able to harvest their bees. This is a project that is ongoing, and I'm telling you guys because Loitoktok Forest is quite unique, because it borders the Kenya-Tanzania the line, and they are planting bees inside this forest to protect this forest, but as a source of livelihood. You did mention about land titles and all these inheritance rights within these, but these guys are recognized under the Forest Act of 2016 as a community forest association. And I believe that they have actually harvested bees over the past, but I believe that this is a group that is highly organized. They have over 100 hives that are existing, and they will greatly benefit from some of the things that you've actually mentioned. And maybe to any other group that would be interested, could you maybe, because we might not access you, all of us outside here, could you just maybe in a way that we can have this partnership going on? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, and I see now we are at a good place there. Okay, that's the very last hand at the back. Bronson, I hope you got that question. Yeah.
Hello guys, I'm Gisora Nyabuti from Kibera, and we do farming there. So my question goes to agriculture, Umsana represent agriculture. So it's very, I agree with the big guy, it's very tough for you to find these agriculture people in the office, like not agriculture people only, but like the public servant. Okay, and you will find the receptionists, but you won't find the offices that you need to address to your challenges. The second thing is, unapata tulitrainiwa na watu wengine hapo hivyo international company ya agriculture, but unapata they're advising you guys to use herbicides, and then when you use these herbicides zinatoa mazao poa ndio, lakini unapata these things are not healthy, unaona. So ukipanda the healthy part unapata zinakuwa ni standard growth, but wasa wana prefer the more zimepewa madawa, wanaoneza ndo kubwa, unaona. So how also can you guys wale mko hapa mbele wa agriculture, how sustainable, environmental friendly can you use pesticides, si zimetengenezwa kampuni but our own, because before these productions of pesticides we used to have our own pesticides. So how also do we implement that? Also on the onions onions doctor, how to me herbicides, because they are so much harmful. Thank you.
Haya, sasa hiyo story ya pesticides utatuambia, and maybe also Mr. Benson can touch on it if it's not a problem. Utatuambia sasa hiyo inakuanga aje. And there was also a question, use of sustainable irrigation. Okay, so the first question I think was asked by Rogers, and it was going to Lucy. On how to profile initiatives in the village. What have you done, and what are some of the best practices that young people in the rural areas can borrow to make sure they get profiling and they get visibility, they get, all that he talked about? I hope you got the question.
Okay, I will share my experience. It may not be the best, but I will share. So when I started, I would take a photo and post on my Facebook, and I started I'm good at storytelling, so I started Diary of an Onion Farmer, I think 2013, 2014, thereabout. So I would go, have the seed, put it on Facebook, day 1, day 20, have another photo, day 50, have another one, when you're going to the market. So I would just post photos of what I do. But then I didn't know that is storytelling. No, I didn't even know that there are people who are interested in such kind of things. But the reality is you never know who is watching. So I would like to talk about low tech that we can access as youths. I believe even in the village, we talk with our brothers and sisters via WhatsApp, that's true, sometimes Facebook. So if you're keeping goats, and you can call yourself Otieno the goat keeper, for example. You can use that name.
Ama Otis Wambuzi.
Otis Wambuzi, kitu kama hiyo. What you're doing is, you're branding yourself, hata hujui unajibrand, but you're branding yourself. Without your knowledge, you're becoming an authority in your space, for example. So kama mimi nawekanga kuku, mimi nazajita akuku danger, for example. What I'm doing is, najibrand, ukweli I am becoming I am using what I have, which is 5 MB per day, for example, to become an authority in my space. Again, on the low-hanging fruits, again, as a youth, that is what we have most of the time. So instead of always downloading songs, sometimes go Google farmers groups on Facebook. You're going to find groups, zingine ziko na 600,000 members, zingine 400,000 members. That is how we would say, find your tribe and keep it. So wewe, ukikuwa na question ya, this is happening to my, say uko na picha, your Sukuma Wiki has some worms. Post it there, an agronomist will give you an answer. So what are you doing? You're just becoming an authority using social media as a space. So that is what I started doing until by the time I was calling myself Onion Doctor, people thought it was about time. But all along, if someone would have told me to do that from day 1, it would have been very tasking. So I would say, because I'm not an NGO or a government institution that I will come and do a project in the village, I may not be able to. But you who is in the village who has a photo, post it on your status. I say, a status nowadays, ukieka moja, by jioni nakuanga na 400 people who has viewed it. True or false?
True.
True. So imagine you're posting your Sukuma Wiki hapo, the harvest, utasikia mtu amekwambia nini, nataka kilo 5, nataka kilo 10. So me looking at it from a business woman in agriculture, my place where I am is irrelevant as long as we are connected via internet. So for me, I would say let's use low-hanging fruits, what we have, which is social media and the internet.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think that is perfect. Clap. Yeah, I think in this day and age, we definitely have a lot of opportunities. I think everybody now in the rural areas, most people have smartphones. So let's make use of that. Sasa Bronson wa Hani. There was a question on, from Laitoktok. You can respond to that, and if you also have anything about profiling visibility, as you also make your closing remarks.
Okay.
I hope I'm audible. Thank you. I'll start with the question from Homa Bay of data and IP. And also, I'll reference this also to the government and also Ministry of ICT. I have a co-founder there, and he could share this with you. As I was starting, basically I told you we have like 4 products, including this. This is the only hive in the world of its kind. It's produced in UK right now, it's produced in US, but it's patented and copyrighted in Kenya. This hive you see here. When you start your idea, move it as a loan. If you're sharing, don't share everything, because you might not have the money to patent it, but copyright is free in Kenya. Start by there, so that if someone grabs your idea, you have a basis of argument. I know these are the things whereby we don't get to know that. And as you grow up, because it's innovation, look at data and policy. Like right now we're running Apitrans, we have a lot of data, but currently we know what to share and whom to share with and what not to share. If it's a farmer, they'll get all the information they want about themselves. If it's the government or third party, because of policy issue, we will not give you this information. It's clear, blue, white and black. So that's something you need to build on yourself. And when you're moving to data, also try and check. There's also some institution in the world that regulate data and all that. That's one key things you have to do it. In reference to the government, okay, this will come as a closing remark, though I'll have to say it right now before I forget. Innovation is something key bright. And today I'm here also, I really love to thank Youth Agenda. And in that connection, I think I'll give you 1 kg of honey as Youth Agenda. You're really supporting me. You can choose whichever you want here. Yeah. What was born was just an idea. It was an innovation I was doing, and I think the drawback in the country was to be incorporated in terms of innovation. And one thing I can tell you about Apitrace, if you look at the logo, it's Africa. We had to redo this banner 3 days ago during the Africa Trade Fair in South Africa. What I'm saying is right now, it's a product from Kenya, but currently, I know everybody knows about the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is one of the systems in its kind in Africa that's the first one to implement leveling trade barriers and intercontinental trade barriers in Africa, and it's from Kenya. This was possible because of some few organizations that they saw the vision in us, that was the Pan-African Chambers of Commerce. What I'm going to say is, if you have ideas, don't neglect it. It might be there. Now, this is the unicorn of actually Kenya, because it's not in Africa actually, it's also in UK and EU. They're using it as a database to cross-check if the honey which is coming into EU is it really produced in Africa, because it's high alteration. So it's one of the unicorns we're having in the world. So coming back to the person that I talk, I'm looking forward. I'll work with you, and also to other members, if you can't really, we have a Twitter account by the name Honey Consortium, at Honey Consortium. You can check us actually there. If you drop a message, there's always the communication team. They are quick to pick. And also, I have myself, if you want to drop me, I'm easy in Twitter. Lucy can testify to that. I communicate. And apparently, actually, we have different banners. This banner has my number. You call it, I'll pick and I'll talk to you. This is the system banner, because I'm the guy in charge of the system. Though it's not the organization. So, and also we have our website at www.africahoneyconsortium. You can also find us there, and you can also push discussion. And also my email is bronson.e@africahoneyconsortium.
Thank you.
And if you drop at, should I say the wrong email? Okay, if you drop my email at md@africahoneyconsortium, I'll still get it. So I think with that, close my remarks there. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky, your closing remarks, and if there's a question you want to respond to. Especially, I think, on intellectual property. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. So to answer first the question on intellectual property, I'm a lawyer by profession, so maybe I can try to demystify it a bit. So I think the first thing when you're also becoming an innovator, you always have to think about how do I protect this idea? And I know it's not always easy because you're thinking, I don't even understand the law, I don't even understand the terms and conditions. But as a first step to really protect yourself, whenever you're going anywhere to pitch your idea, always ask, is there somewhere I can sign to protect these terms and conditions? How do I know that what I'm sharing with you won't go beyond these doors? And if there's no document, because a lot of people tend to rely on these oral arrangements, but if there's no evidence, no one will ever know that you try to protect it. And then there are lots of centers right now that are trying to make people aware of their rights, including intellectual property. So also taking the time to use what's available. Is there a cyber cafe even at the rural level where you are to just go and Google? Is there a center available where you can get information? And I think this is something that has to also be embedded in lots of the programs that are on innovation, because intellectual property and issues to do with data protection are not taught to innovators. If you go through the course content of most of these programs, not taught. And even for when you're giving a grant to someone, always think about how can we empower these, even when we give them the grant, to think about intellectual property. There's also a question on people living with disabilities, and I think that's very important, because even if you look at most of the programs that are being designed, how inclusive are they? Even if you think about a simple thing like a program to give grants or a program to capacity build, in the room, have you made it inclusive? The location you choose for the training, is it a place where people with disabilities can be able to access? Those are very key questions. And also when you look at different policies and strategies, how inclusive are they if you really scratch the surface? And my closing remarks would be to most of us as young people. The first thing is dare to dream. Dare to take a chance if you want to enter into agriculture. And then take it a step further. See what resources do I need and how can I access them? And if you have access to internet, if you do, see how you can leverage that to your advantage. I know a big thing that's also not talked about is the digital divide, where not everyone has access to technology. So also when we're thinking about all these programs and all that, how do we reach the last mile, those who don't have access? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Felix. I am a young person, niko na mshwari, Fuliza, nataka loan, you know, I want to do sustainable irrigation. What are you doing to give us access to some of these things?
Thanks. Acha nisimame. Juu nataka tuambiane ukweli. Kidogo tu, just indulge me a little bit. So I'll start with good things, and then I'll finish with my opinion, which somewhat might be controversial, but I'm known to speak my mind. So I'm sure Victor was aware about that. So the first thing is, if you are interested in agriculture, there is something that Benson mentioned, that there is a call about Enable Youth, where government has committed 2.2 billion shillings. The call is out there. If you are running a small enterprise, Onion Doctor, if you want to scale, sorry, I have some money, please apply, because we need that money to go to the right young people. Okay, thank you. So really, if you're in this, even if you're not interested and you're in this room, help us share the information. Send it out. The closing date is on 26th, so you have about a week. And the good thing about the project is it has a training component. Issues about handling money, I think somebody mentioned it, and all that can be gathered there. Now to slightly more bad things, which is about my opinion. The first thing is to my younger brother here. No, one more good thing.
There is this beautiful initiative about the presentation that was made. Just before I walked into this meeting, I was attending a forum where CEOs from African DFIs were actually discussing issues about capital and inclusive finance for that. My suggestion is, as you go ahead, I think a lot of development finance institutions on the continent can be your very good allies. See how you can drop them in and see how you can leverage the infrastructure that they already have to ensure that you push your objectives. And now to the few things. I'm a young person, my friends, and I work in government. I have worked in government for 5 years, actually going to 6. I'm looking forward to exiting soon. Let me tell you a few things that are true, okay? Are we together? The first thing is this. You might have a genuine desire that government should be responsive, but it can only respond to you. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. That for Ben to do something, you must trigger him. And unfortunately, that is just how governments everywhere in the world are structured. In my other life, I ran a leadership development program where we work with young community leaders to help them know how to engage government. You're not going to get services from government or from Felix as a public servant because he should. Ideally, it should be so, but it will not be so. As young Kenyans, as youth, my friend from the Lake region, if you have an issue about a county government not having nominated a youth CEC, there are provisions in law through which you can act and take that to the county assembly and take that to the Kenyan parliament. And you don't need money to do it. You just need you as a person bearing the burden of the community on your back and choosing to say that I'm going to do what? To do this. So my very, very big challenge to all of us who are in this room, because all of us here are youth who are privileged in one way or the other, we must look at how we push for change in a different way. This is so fundamental if we want to change our country. If you want to stop complaining about walking into a government office and not getting an officer, all right? It has to be that you have to do something as a citizen, because governments are not responsive, will never be responsive for the sake, because the president is a nice person, or the politician is a nice person, or the technocrat is a nice person. Governments respond to citizens who are well organized, well informed, and acting. So my challenge to us as a generation is this: we have to bear the burden of our country slightly differently. The second thing is about CRB. It is such a sad reality that almost 60% of young people in this country have been listed negatively somewhere by a financial institution. And it is a pandemic that has been driven by fintechs in one way or the other. Because when you knock a bank and they tell you we want 3 years financial statements and you walk away, that bank will not list you, all right? But if you walk to Tala and they can just look at your M-Pesa transactions and give you 200 shillings, but then you refuse to pay it, they do what? They list you, all right? So this is where the balance also lies. Ask yourself, and I'm speaking as someone who's worked in a DFI and also a bank. If I came to you to ask you for 50 shillings, for 20,000 shillings, will you ask me what I'm going to do with it? Will you? Ask me what I'm going to do with it. When a bank asks you that, many of us will construe it as bureaucracy. Because that is essentially what happens. When a financial institution asks you to do a proposal, all right, you construe it as what? As bureaucracy. But the truth of the matter is, we might not be able to access this money unless we are willing to do a little more. So yes, government has put 2.2 billion shillings. It is in our custody. But when we come to you and tell you you have to write a proposal, you say, what? It is a bureaucracy. And a few months down the line, this money will be reallocated to another thing. You understand where the problem is?
You have a minute.
If you are listed on CRB, apply for Enable Youth, right? I might not be able to respond. The only thing that will happen is we are not going to deny you money on the basis of that listing, but if you are applying for 1 million shillings and you've been negatively listed, you might qualify for 100,000 shillings, all right? Because again, what we also have to know as young people is, if you borrow 200 shillings and don't pay it, it will deny you a bigger opportunity down the line. And then finally, thank you, Victor, for convening this. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the challenge. Yes, Mr. Ben. And also make your closing remarks so that I don't have to come back to the panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. One of us mentioned here that teachers are killing agriculture by sending the school kids to the school gardens for punishment. All of us have contributed towards that, the teachers, the parents, the society as a whole, and even the press and the media. Teachers sending kids to the school gardens, the parents, mtoto akianguka mtihani, you send them to, no, what do you tell them? You tell them, utakwenda kulima, eh? Sindio? That's a very common statement from us parents. The society, where you take an agriculture course, you are considered, we are mesomea tu agriculture, agriculture everybody is doing somewhere, blah, 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 blah. So the society has also contributed. The media, what do you see in the media as agriculture people, all miserable, wazers in tattered clothes and looking emaciated as the face of the farmers. Kindly, we need to change that. So all of us have contributed in one way or another. Secondly, there's the issue of devolution, county and national government levels. Initially, when devolution came into place, there's a lot of hostility between the national and the county governments. We thank God that those hostilities have died. There was a time when we needed clearance from the CS Ministry of Education, Ministry of Devolution, for us to move from the national level to visit a county. If a GK vehicle is seen in the county, but I thank God all that has changed, and we've all realized that we are targeting the same farmers, so we are working closely. But we must also realize that agriculture has been heavily devolved. There are a few functions that are left with the national government, issues policies and strategies and capacity building. So agriculture has been heavily involved. So kindly take advantage of your county agriculture government offices and visit them and seek for information. There's also an issue on organic versus inorganic agriculture. If you Google safe use of pesticides, you'll be able to see what is said about using the pesticides safely. But given a choice, I believe most of us would go for the organic. Is it organic or inorganic? Organic. Costs more, is more expensive. But the choice is yours. The chemicals are there, but we must also realize that there are cartels in place. We talk of seeds, quality inputs, but we realize that there are some farms and companies and cartels which produce substandard inputs. But I believe we have structures in place to ensure that as much as possible, those inputs do not get access to the market. Lastly, I wish to thank the organizers of this event. Thank you so much for even having us in mind so that we're able to share on what we are doing as government. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lucy.
I will touch quickly on the issue of organic and inorganic. As a practitioner, it is true we have both organic and inorganic products in the market. What I do as a farmer is, what I concentrate most on is what we call PHI, the number of days that I can safely sell that product to you without poisoning you. Because when you want to do 100% organic, you're going to realize as a practitioner, kuna vitu zingine tu haki ukweli. Ukweli kisemwa, they just don't do. Because the diseases we are having are more rampant than the solutions we have in the organic way. So the question should be, how do you integrate organic and inorganic to have integrated pest management, which will give you as a farmer good money and also give safe food to the consumer. And thank you for this forum. I wish we would do more. And once again, guys, I'm a youthful enabler. Come to my place, see whatever you need to see about agriculture. DM me on Twitter as Onion Doctor. Mi nitakupatia whatever I have, market linkage, whatever I have, I will share with you because I believe I'm part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. I think this has been a very challenging panel for us. Please clap for all the panelists once more. Thank you. And Lucy has a booth outside. Please visit the Onion Doctor just outside. And just to thank the panelists once more, thank you for a job well done. I know time was not on our side. We have sped up some of the conversations, but I hope the agenda will take note of that and we'll have another opportunity to have this conversation. So thank you all for your time and for your patience. Asanteni sana. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much to our panelists. I will not take too much of your time. I know you're hungry. I'm just here to inform you that you should pick a meal card at the exit points. We are going to use these 2 doors for the exit points. Please try and be as orderly as possible. Let's move 1 row at a time. Pick your meal cards. We're going down to the Margaret Kobia building. Once you turn left, just follow the main road all the way down. Sawa sawa? So that you have your meal. There's a bag to appreciate the panelists. So I'll request that they are given the bag, but we also allow members to leave and pick their meal cards because of time. Let's try and be back here by 3:30 so that we save on time and ensure that we can have the afternoon session as quickly as possible. So please enjoy your lunch. Pole for the delay. Deogracious? Please ensure you pick a meal card as you go down for lunch. Ensure you pick a meal card.